if you can tell, there's not too many clouds. There's some here and there, but we'll just go around them. Yeah. Good thing is it's mostly clear, at least for this perspective. Yeah, pretty nice weather today. We'll be changing altitude quite a bit on the flight. If you have any troubles with the ears adjusting as we go up and down, let me know. Seatbelts, keep them low and tight on the waist. They should be already, but keep them snug down nice and snug, just in case we get any bumps. And of course, at the end, when it's time to get out the big knob, if you twist, everything comes apart. You guys got the microphones figured out now. Just make sure you hold it super close when you're using it. And oh, one more thing, just temporarily during takeoff and landing, I have to turn them off just for a second, but they'll be on most of the time. But if they're not working, that's probably why. Got the video recorder going. It's on the inside camera right now. We'll be capturing as we go with this thing, but also get you a little bit with your phone or your devices as well, just in case once in a while these don't work out at the end. In case it doesn't work, make sure you got some backup. Anyway, that's all I got. You guys ready? Sit back, relax, enjoy. Let me get this up in the air. Be back with you in just 1 second.
This transmission is coming to you. This transmission is coming to you.
You got it.
This transmission is coming to you. This transmission is coming to you.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
All right, you are go.
You got it.
All right, you are go. All right, you are go. Now we see the Earth.
You got it.
Now we see the Earth now.
You got it.
Now we see the Earth.
You got it.
Now we see the Earth now. All right.
How's everybody doing so far? All right. Good deal. Well, once again, welcome aboard. Of course, one more time, my name is Shane. And if you got any questions, go for it. I'll be pointing out all kinds of things along the way here as well.
You got it.
Old lava flows underneath us. It's all from Mauna Loa volcano. Way up there in the distance on the left, kind of hiding behind those clouds a little bit. That's Mauna Loa. Where all this stuff came from. Most of this, we don't know the date. Anything older than 1800, nobody was taking notes. And this is all relatively old lava, with the one exception being the darker one coming up next. That one we do know. It's 1859 lava. The only one in this zone right here we know the date on. So it's still pretty old, but at least it was on the record books. 1800 is when they start taking notes. So anything past 1800, we do have records on it. This particular flow went over here to the right. Now they built the landfill on top of it, but behind you can see it went all the way to the ocean.
You got it.
This transmission is coming to you.
I kind of wanted to point this one out in particular because later, as long as the clouds allow us to, we'll see where this one came out of the ground. We'll go take a look. But first, we're headed for Hualalai volcano. Directly in front of us, Hualalai, it's one of our 3 active volcanoes on the island, although the least active of those 3. This one hasn't erupted since 1801. So it just barely made the record books in 1801. Yeah, they only had been documenting for about a year, but in 1801 it erupted twice. And one of the 2, you can see it already, that extra dark one over there ahead to the right, yeah, you can see it came out sort of up on the side up there, not all the way at the summit, kind of came out up here on the side and went down into the ocean. The other 1801 lava flow came out a little bit around the other side, and it went down, and, well, it sits where the Kona Airport is today. But that's the second 1801 lava flow. Actually, you know what? You can see it. If you look at the very, very edge of the island, the farthest shoreline, you can see that black. That's more of it. That's the other 1801 lava flow. That's where the airport is down there. Is it anybody's first time in a helicopter? Maybe, no, just the two of us then? Oh, what do you think so far? Is that all right? Yeah. Not a bad way to get around. Easy to get used to. Currently 2,600 feet and climbing. Now, Hualalai volcano, we're going to head up to Hualalai. We actually don't go up to the top of this one very often, but I was talking on the radio to one of the other pilots. You noticed a minute ago we kind of made a turn. Maybe you did, but we were going to head up kind of more in the middle of the island. Instead, we're going to kind of make a little detour up and around this way because he said that the way he was going, there was a cloud kind of blocking his route, and he was like, I'm going to have to kind of double back over here. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to change right now. We'll avoid that issue altogether. Hualalai is 8,270 feet at the top. Again, last eruption was in 1801, but they do think it'll erupt every 200 to 300 years, best guess. Not a lot of records, so hard to say for sure, but considered active just barely. Although I've actually heard people call this one dormant, and really they're not wrong either. Problem is, there's not really a written definition of how you classify active versus dormant. Where do you draw the line? So, either one's probably correct.
How fast are we going?
Currently, well, we're climbing, which slows us down a whole bunch. But even with the climb, we're going 72 knots, which is about 85 miles an hour. But we'll probably average, well, definitely over 100, more like 115, 120, somewhere in there, maybe more. Be our average, yeah. Once we finish our climb, we'll speed up quite a bit. This road we're crossing is Highway 190. It goes down into Kona on the right. If you follow it left, well, eventually you'll find Saddle Road intersection, but then if you keep going, it goes into Waimea. Notice this hill on the left looks like a baby volcano. In Hawaii, we call them pu'us. P-U apostrophe U. And essentially, pu'u is a cinder cone. It's an old eruption site where lava once came spraying up out of the ground, and fallout from the geysering lava left a big mound. The thing about them, though, they're everywhere. I mean, because there's smaller ones, too. There's a little tiny one up here ahead to the left. There's little bits of, yeah, they're everywhere. And it kind of shows that the volcanoes don't always erupt from the top. More common than you might guess as well. Pu'uvava is the name of this one. And there's a trail. You can hike all the way up to the top of it. I've hiked up that one maybe 4 or 5 times. That would have been a big eruption. Geyser shooting up and the fallout, right? I can imagine it. And the geyser probably was higher than us.
The one right below us, is that a pu'u?
Yes, it is. A little tiny one. You got it. Yeah, just a little much smaller eruption, but same thing, just smaller scale. There's a very top of one in front of us, too. See the little bowl in the ground? Now, that was probably a much bigger one once upon a time. But it over time, sometimes a really old one can get surrounded by lava flows, and it kind of gets consumed. Eventually, sometimes they'll get buried entirely by new lava flows, and they'll just disappear. I actually saw one disappear over on Kilauea back in 2017. It was just the very top of one that was all that was left, and we had an eruption, and it just gobbled it up. Gone. Buried forever.
So it looks like there's water down there.
Yep, that's a man-made water reservoir. That's because right below us, you notice all this grassland? If you look careful, there's cattle down here. There's some I see the little spots right now. There's cattle down in there. It's all cattle ranching land. Just about anywhere you are on the island that's grassy, even if it's dry grass, green grass, whatever, if it just looks like grassland, it's probably got cattle in it. It's a really big thing around here. That caught me off guard when I moved here. I grew up in Utah originally, right? And I had no idea. I didn't know I was moving to the country. I'd never been to Hawaii before. I figured it was small islands jam full of people, which is kind of true of Oahu, maybe. More so all the other islands than this one. But yeah, this is like living in the country here. See the big black? That's a rainwater catchment. Looks like big black tarps, and the water runs down into that tank down below. Similar to what we just saw below us, but a little bit different shape. See the Kona Airport now on the right. Control tower way down there.
How fast does this helicopter go?
Well, at level cruise, I would say average about 100 and, like let's say we pull full power at the level speed, level cruise, we probably go at about 130, 140 miles an hour. It can technically go more, but only temporarily in a dive. It's sort of like a car. On level ground, it'll go one speed, but if you go down a hill, it'll go a lot faster, you know, same idea. Maximum we're allowed to go, even on a dive, is 155 knots, which is about a little over 180 miles an hour, 185 maybe. But there's a catch. You can technically go faster still follow the rules if you have a tailwind, because the tailwind pushes you along. You don't have as much airspeed, but you're still moving fast. So because of that combination, I've had this thing over 200 miles an hour on rare occasion. Doesn't usually. This particular volcano doesn't have a real defined central caldera. You know, many volcanoes do, some don't. This one has kind of a whole bunch of little eruption site holes all over top of it.
What's this volcano called again?
Hualalai. Hualalai, yep. And some people consider it the most dangerous on the island, partially because it's been quiet for a while and people have gotten a little complacent around it, and partially because, well, depending which way the lava goes, there's Kona, like right at the bottom of the hill, and it's a relatively steep hill, which means the lava would move pretty quick. So if the lava happened to come out and flow down towards town, it might could be there in just a couple hours. There's a lot of variables there, and maybe, it's a giant maybe, but it's possible. So yeah, if this erupts the wrong direction, it could be a big mess out here. Now in the distance in front of us, that grassy, well not grassy, the green kind of forested land, all the way down in front of us is the Kona Coffee District. If you're into Kona coffee, which I am, it's pretty good stuff. Anyway, that's where they grow it. To be labeled Kona coffee, it has to be grown in that part of the island down there.
And what makes that area so special?
Well, you know, that's a pretty good question. I have a feeling the Kona coffee growers might tell you a different story than I'm going to tell you. But, in my opinion, that's just where they really started doing it first. So when people started talking about the good coffee in Hawaii, they were like, yeah, the Kona coffee is grown down in Kona, right? And that's probably where it all began. Thus, that's what everybody wants. It got the name, Kona coffee. The reason I say it that way is I've had other locally grown coffees that were just as good, if not sometimes better. But they weren't labeled Kona coffee because they were grown in a different part of the island or even a different island in general. One of my favorite coffees is grown on Kauai, but it's labeled Kauai coffee instead. That's pretty good stuff. You can grow really good coffee anywhere on the green parts of the Hawaiian Islands. It's a pretty cool view up here, isn't it? This is a very rare treat. Again, we don't even normally come up here. And on top of that, this is all private property. There's no road well, there is a dirt road, but you can't go on it. It's all locked gates and everything. Yeah, top of Hualalai volcano. And another cool thing about it is we're allowed to fly not only right over the top of it, but nice and low. Some of the other volcanoes have different kind of restrictions. We either can't go over the top at all, or if we do, we have to go really, really high. So we'll kind of go through those, and I'll talk about those restrictions as we get to them. Actually, we might as well talk about Mauna Loa next, because that's where we're headed. Ahead to the right, up the slope there, that's Mauna Loa, right? It's much, much taller than Mauna Kea. Sorry, than Kohala. I'm mixing up all my names. Hualalai, that's what I'm talking. We're on top of Hualalai right now. And it's much taller than Hualalai. Mauna Loa is 13,681 feet at the top. It's the second tallest in Hawaii. Of course, the tallest is over there, Mauna Kea. Only just barely taller, but yeah, Mauna Loa. Anyway, we're going to head up Mauna Loa, but there's a catch. We can't go all the way to the top for two reasons. Number one, we're not allowed to go above 12,000 feet, because if we were to go above 12,000 feet, FAA says, well, that's fine, you can go up that high, but you got to wear an oxygen mask, because we don't have pressurized aircraft like the airliners do. The second part of the problem is the top of that volcano, the very summit up there, is Volcanoes National Park. And the national park has additional restrictions. It says if we were to go into the national park airspace, we have to climb over 5,000 feet above the airspace to cross into their national park, which would put us up at like 19,000 feet. Yeah, it doesn't work. Can't go up there, so. Anyway, but we want to go up a ways. We're going to go as far as we can up Mauna Loa. We're headed that direction. Look at these old eruption sites everywhere, right? A little Pu'u on the right, there's one. More up here ahead to the right. Kind of beautiful up here.
Can I take out my camera?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, take all the pictures you like. Way up here in the middle of the island, it's empty. It's a desert, you know. Not a whole lot of what's going on. At the lower altitude desert areas, we've got a lot of feral goats. Maybe you've seen them if you've been driving around much, yeah. Up high altitude, the farther up you go, the cooler it gets, and the more likely it is to see sheep instead of goats. Sheep like the cooler temperatures. But over on the windward side of the island, the green side of the island, or even down in the Kona Coffee District, anywhere it's real green on the island, it's much more likely to find feral hogs. And the hogs like the green. There's a military zone up ahead and to our left. You can't really see much. I mean, it is a military zone, but it's a live fire training area up here between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. Really, it's not too far from us. It's just like a mile and a half over this way, and then it goes all the way over towards the base of Mauna Kea. All of that. We can't go in there. The military comes up here and shoots artillery and drop bombs and whatever they do. We stay over here. You can pretty easily see it though on the display. It's the blue line. You can see we're kind of zoomed out here, but there it is. Just go around it. The troops actually are based on Oahu, but they do their live fire training here. So they go back and forth quite a bit. They kind of take turns, different divisions or whatever. They come out here. They usually come over on a big transport boat and then unload down to the harbor and bring a convoy up, and then they train for a little while. They switch out. Well, of course, the aircraft, the helicopters and whatnot, they'll just fly over, but... You guys let me know if it gets too cold. I've got the air conditioner on high still, but it is starting to cool down in here. If it gets too cold, oh yeah, like I say, just let me know. If I notice it, I'll turn it down, but if I'm not freezing and you are, just tell me. Oh, Mauna Kea over on the left. It is taller than Mauna Loa, but only just barely. 13,796 feet top of that thing. It's a dormant volcano, hasn't erupted for an estimated 4,600 years. It should erupt again someday, although hopefully not anytime too soon, because it's the only volcano on the island that could hit my house with lava. Mauna Loa here is much more active. This is the most active volcano we've been to yet. The last eruption out of this was in 2022. And on average, in all of our records, it's been erupting about every 5 to 6 years. Although sometimes it's a lot longer gap and sometimes a lot shorter, but that's the average. We had a pretty long gap from 1984 until 2022. Actually, over that gap, this hadn't been erupting for a long, long time, right? A bunch of different times, the geologists came out and said, oh, it's about to erupt. And then it did, right? And so that happened like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times over the years. And eventually, then October 2022, they came out and said, oh, it's about to erupt. Then a whole month went by. And everybody was like, they were wrong again. Kind of went on with life, right? Forgot about it. Well, it was late night on November 28th. I was up that night doing something on the computer, up real late. I didn't have to work the next morning, and sitting at home, I felt an earthquake in the house. That's not unusual. We get them sometimes. We get, that's all active volcanoes, and everything's shifting, and, didn't think much of it. But then there was another earthquake, and then a third, and then a fourth, and this all happened within like 12 minutes. And I was like, okay, that's not normal. 4 in a row, right? And I was like, well, maybe Kilauea is starting to erupt. Because no volcano, at the time, no volcanoes were erupting, just like today, right? That was no erupting anywhere. But Kilauea, on the other side, where we're headed over towards right now, it's the most likely to erupt. So I thought for sure it was that one. If it was an eruption. And then I started looking on the computer, kind of pulling up the USGS website. Oh, where were these earthquakes at? Before I even got the page loaded, my phone started buzzing. It said, Mauna Loa eruption warning. Emergency alert on everybody's phones all went off. You know what I mean? Those emergency alerts you get. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Dawned on me, I can see this volcano from my house if there's no clouds in the way. I was like, I wonder if there's any clouds. I want to look. So anyway, I whipped open the shades. I could see the whole sky was glowing bright orange. It was smoke coming out the top and everything. It was amazing. Like, okay, that's pretty cool. I jumped up, put my camera on the tripod, set it up, started taking some pictures, and I was like, I'm going to capture this. And then I was like, wait a second. This just happened, and I can see it from my house, and the whole world is going to want to see this, right? It's going to hit the news, and everybody's going to be talking about it. So I quickly plugged my computer to my camera with a wire, and I put it on YouTube and hit live stream. And it was like 10,000 people tuned in just like that. Because everybody was looking for it on the internet, searching for it, right? I had it. Anyway, I let that live stream run the whole entire eruption. It was like 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks. Now the eruption started at the summit, right in front of us, way up at the top. And that eruption site went for about like 5 hours at the summit. The caldera is it's not a deep hole at the top, it's kind of a big, huge, wide, flat, a little bit sunken in spot in the middle. And it filled up and started overflowing on the right. Up above, kind of just out of sight up top, it was going out that way. So at first, everybody thought, well, if you live down that part of the island, watch out, right? Here it comes. But it didn't get very far down the hill because it only went for about 5 hours out the summit. The reason it stopped going out the summit is because a new eruption site opened up on the left side, down the slope. Another place just gashed open down there. And that caused the pressure to go that way, the summit died out. So from then on, the rest of the next 2.5 weeks or so of eruption, all came out down on the side and out left. So out toward the clouds on the left, way out down there, that's where the lava flow went, down that way. And it slowly but surely advanced down the slope. It was going real slow. It was going way slower than walking speed going down the hill, which is actually real typical. Most eruptions in Hawaii are very slow moving. But it's hard to stop lava, so at least you can just walk out of the way, though. But usually. Anyway, that was pretty exciting. So we flew up here. We'd fly right up over and look at it. I'm going to take you up and show you that lava flow. You'll see it here in just a little bit. I'll show you right where it was. Fly over top of it. But before we do, we're going to look at the 1859 eruption site. So the most likely place for eruption on one of the volcanoes here is the summit. That's pretty straightforward. Makes sense, right? But the second most likely place for eruption is a rift zone. A rift zone is, think of it like a crack starting at the summit down the side. That's where Mauna Loa's eruption shifted to. After it started at the summit, it shifted to a rift zone down on the side. And the side cracked open. We'll go see that in a minute here. My point with all that is, sometimes eruption comes out neither. It just comes out the side somewhere randomly. Like we were looking at those pu'us back there, right? And that's exactly what happened here. In 1859, see this kind of gash right in front of us? It's just a random eruption site. The side of the volcano busted open right here. Lava started gushing out, flowing off to the left. 1859. This is the one that made it all the way down to the ocean. We saw it when we first took off. Pretty cool. It would have been kind of gushing up out of all of that cracked area. Little buildings off to the left. Actually, that's a mock-up town made out of shipping containers. It's inside the military zone and they use it for target practice. Now there's more buildings up here head to the right that's not inside the military zone. This is Mauna Loa Observatory. They do a bunch of things up here, but there's kind of two primary purposes for this facility. Number one, it's a solar observatory. They look at the sun during the daytime. And two, probably the most important reason for this facility, is air quality monitoring. And at first you might think that has something to do with volcanoes and eruptions and the gas they put out, but it really doesn't at all. In fact, the reason they chose this location to monitor the air quality is because it's pretty much the cleanest air on the planet. East of the Big Island, there's nothing but ocean for 2,400 miles, and typically that's the way the wind is blowing, from east to west. So we get this nice diluted, fresh, clean air, and they'll use this to determine how is our planet air quality doing in general. Notice the different colors and also different textures to the lava flows. Generally, the darker colors are more recent, but also notice the different textures. Now, the smooth, kind of almost shiny lava is called pahoehoe. The real rough, like abrasive, typically a darker color, or at least for the same age, it'll be a darker color. That's A'a lava flow. Both are made from the same stuff, the same material. It's all basalt lava. Sometimes they even come from the same eruption. The difference is the temperature of the lava in its final moving moments. So how hot was it as it was coming to a stop? Extra hot, it's more fluid and smooth. Cooled down a little bit too much but still moving, it gets all clumpy and busted up. Remember the eruption we were talking about on Mauna Loa in 2022? It started up at the summit for a little bit, but then the lava started coming out the rift zone. Now we can start seeing the rift zone. In fact, all of this relatively fresh lava in front of us now is a result of that rift zone being up the slope here. This gentle ridge, you can see it up ahead to the right. A whole bunch of little pu'us on top of it. That's it. A whole bunch of eruption sites that happen in that ridge up there. And a lot of it flows down this way. Much higher concentration of recent lava flows along here. Including that most recent one from 2022. I mentioned it came out up here, right? And then it flowed right to left down the slope. Well, there's a problem though. Notice the road and the power lines. These guys were cut off, what I'm getting at. Yeah, that eruption, really the only big problem we had from that eruption is this solar observatory up here in the Mauna Loa Observatory. Their road and their power lines got cut off. You can now look down the slope, you can see it. So they can't drive up here anymore, at least not right now, until they get that fixed. Now, there is a plan to fix it, but they're going to wait. Although we're probably coming up real near time they might actually start working on it again. Reason is, they're going to wait. They don't want to rush it because a lava flow can be really thick, right? And it takes a long time to cool internally. The surface cools fast. In fact, you could probably walk on a lava flow, come stop in front of you, give it about 24 hours, you could probably step on it. But if you really want to dig into it and make it all flat again, you're using heavy equipment, you got to dig into the big hills and lumps, and it can be hot inside. So anyway, about 2 years is usually the typical wait time before they start fixing lava flows for road purposes. So they're going to be doing it pretty soon here.
no gas stations around here.
They're kind of in the middle of nowhere up here, yeah. They're disconnected. They've been flying up with a helicopter about at least once a week to go up and check on things. Plus, they took in the beginning they took a bunch of solar panels and batteries up there to get some of the systems back online remotely. Yeah, it's kind of cut off. No ground access unless you climb across a bunch of lava flows. And this lava flow is very difficult to go across. It's not easy. That's actually where they believe the name came from. When the Polynesians first came to Hawaii, they had to make new names for all this stuff, right? You got to remember they didn't wear shoes. And if you ever tried to go on that rough lava with no shoes, you'd probably say as well. Pretty messed up road. There's a little white dome there on the left, and in the distance you see it kind of halfway down the hill. That's a Mars dome. A bunch of people have been living inside of that dome practicing what it might be like living on Mars. Luckily the lava flow missed their dome. They had evacuated, nobody was there at the time, but still the lava went past instead of hitting it, thankfully. Although they actually had a lava flow, the main flow we just crossed over, right? But here was a little secondary flow, and this one was much more likely to hit that dome, but it didn't go as far. Now that lava flow went kind of down just under the edge of the clouds down there, and that's where it stopped at, right down there on our left. See the holes in the ground over here? Those are holes in top of a lava tube. If you were to get into one of them, you could probably go through and come out a different one. Those things are all over the island. If you look carefully, you'll find them as we're flying around. Oh, see the little trench on the right? Kind of a groove coming down here? That's what could have become lava tube had it flowed for a little longer. It actually was kind of beginning to crust over in spot. So a lava flow, it'll let's say it's flowing the same route for a little while. At first, it's just surface lava flow, but it'll cool down pretty, well, really what it starts doing is it starts channelizing. It kind of crusts out up on the sides and it makes this little chute for itself as it cools along the sides of the flow. It makes a little chute, like we just saw, and then give that a little time, eventually it'll start crusting over. That's the beginning of a lava tube. But the nice thing about a lava tube is it insulates the lava, allows it to go further down the hill and stay hot longer, and then the process repeats. So with time, lava tube can get really long. Sometimes a lava tube will allow lava flow to go all the way to the ocean. That 1859 lava flow we saw went all the way to the ocean way back there. For sure it had lava tube helping to get it down that far. And it probably took quite a while, a good number of months to do it. Kind of a process. Typically a surface lava flow won't really go very fast or very far because it's cooling down too quick. Kind of working our way around the rift zone, the Mauna Loa's rift zone. Oh, the most recent previous lava flow, remember that we just saw the newest one back there in 2022. Previous to that, the newest one was in 1984. That one is coming up next. It's real dark bands, kind of little fingers of lava going across in front of us. That's all 1984. And you can see where it came out, just up here on the right. That's the actual eruption site on the rift over to the right. We're at about 9,500 feet at the moment. As we're coming around Mauna Loa's rift zone and over the 1984 lava flows, we can also now see Kilauea volcano. If you look out in the distance in front of us, and way out there, just a little right, under the clouds, there's a bit of a sunken in spot. That's the caldera. And you can even see smoke coming out of it. A little bit, just a tiny bit. Yeah, that's the top of Kilauea, most active volcano in the whole world. Erupting more often than not, although it is taking a break right now. You guys been over here, Volcanoes National Park? Got that great big flat caldera. That caldera, we can't see Mauna Loa's caldera because it's too high for us to go up there, but it's a pretty similar appearance. It's kind of a big, wide, flat kind of sunken in. Well, no surprise, the east side of the island has a bunch of clouds. Usually does. The rainy side of the island. Yeah, typically the trade winds blow east to west. Well, a little bit northeast to southwest, kind of left of the sun. That's where the wind's coming from. And always over here, that wind, it's very humid. It's being pushed up the slope, and as the air rises, it loses pressure and loses temperature. Colder air can't hold as much moisture. Clouds form and rain falls. So it's such a pronounced difference, the two sides of the island, because that consistent prevailing wind. The rainiest parts of the Big Island, kind of behind us, way out that direction under the clouds. Actually, there's an area over there, they get like 350 inches of rain per year. Compared to where we started, 5 to 10 maybe. You can almost kind of visualize the air based on where the clouds are. It's coming upslope, and where these line ends, there's either one of two things happening. Either the air has reached its highest point and starts descending again, which is happening in front of us. It kind of goes up, and then it starts going down the slope. And as it starts going down, it warms and absorbs, and the clouds just dissipate. Or, at some point, it goes so high, it'll hit an inversion. It starts warming again because it climbed too high. And it just kind of caps the clouds. Volcanoes National Park, of course, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, the summit of Mauna Loa volcano behind us on the right. And there's a band of national park back there on the right. It comes down the rift, and then it comes right across on our right side, down this way. And then it encompasses the entire summit of Kilauea, and pretty much all of Kilauea we can see, all that distant land out there. It's sort of a weird, irregular shape. We're required, if we go over National Park, to either to stay outside of it, or to go over 5,000 feet above ground when we cross into the National Park. That's why we're actually not allowed to turn right at this moment, because there's a park right there. We're not high enough just yet, but we're getting higher and higher as we head out towards Kilauea summit, right? And as the goal is, once we get out to the summit here, we'll be high enough we can then cross over and look down into it. National Park, they've changed the rules that, not always in history were there all these restrictions, but they keep changing things, and they add, I don't know. It's weird. I always thought it was kind of strange they make us go 5,000 feet above ground out here. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's like vacant land, But according to them, that's the point. They say, well, yeah, but we're trying to keep it natural. A helicopter's not natural. Right, I guess. But there's no other way to see it, You can't even, no trails out there, most of it. Some of it, but not most of it. Well, right in front of us, the National Park entrance is right up this way. They've got, there's even a whole bunch of people living up here. It's Volcano Village. They even have a golf course, a restaurant, a hotel, and everything, too. See the green kind of almost triangle-shaped piece of land over there? That's just outside National Park. There's a little piece of National, and not National Park, it's a cattle ranch. Well, a little bit of history about Kilauea. We've been talking about it, at least somewhat, right? It's the most active volcano in the world. It's erupting more often than not erupting, although it is taking a break right now. Last eruption was about a month ago, roughly, and it was out on its eastern rift zone. Now, the summit is where the caldera is, right here. And we have often eruptions in the caldera, but not always, right? The rift zones are the next most likely place for eruption, and that's where the most recent one was. It was out under the clouds on Kilauea's eastern rift, kind of extends out under the clouds this way. About 6, 7, 8 miles down the rift is where the eruption was happening out under the clouds there. It's done. It stopped 3 weeks, a month ago. Previous to that, the most recent eruption was out in the desert, out to the right, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Although that was a real brief one. It only lasted for about 5 hours. It started at about midnight. We woke up the next morning, and we heard it had started that night before at midnight. We were like, yes, we zoomed over here. It was already done. lasted like 5 hours. It was done before we got here. Very, very short-lived eruption. On the flip side, we sometimes have very, very long-lasting eruptions here on Kilauea. The longest one on record ever started way back in 1823, and it didn't stop until 1924. 101 years, right? So we've got 5-hour eruption, 101-year eruption, and everything in between. Another really long one we had was 1983 down on the rift out under the clouds. One started down there in 1983, didn't stop till 2018. When I first came here in 2011, and that one was still going for 7.5 years. It seemed like it was never going to end. Inside the caldera, the last time we had lava down there was about a year ago. It was roughly a year ago in October. And we had, what really happened, so the floor of the caldera, you notice the right side of the floor is kind of this low, pretty flat spot with a little bit of lumps on it, but it's got some white stains. That's the surface of what was Lava Lake for about 2 years, starting in 2020, and it went up until about 2022. It went for 2 years, from 2020 until 2022. Was a lava lake. Over that course of time, it started way deeper, then it slowly filled up, and then it slowly started crusting over. And then eventually the crust completed, and it was a 1,500 foot thick lava lake in the bottom of that hole. And now it's just a solid crust over top of it all. Notice the road that goes around the far side of the caldera. If you look carefully, follow it, it goes off a cliff. There's a piece missing. What happened, actually, that road was, the last it was open to the public and drivable was in 2008. You could drive all the way around the whole caldera. But then, in 2008, a hole in the ground burst open in the caldera, and a bunch of smoke started coming out. It wasn't really erupting any lava, but smoke was coming out, and the smoke blows that direction, the far side over there. So that area that's now missing was already closed anyway because they didn't want people driving through the smoke. But how it ended up going missing, like that piece that's just missing, was in 2018. Remember the 35-year eruption I mentioned it was going on when I first came here? When that one was coming to an end, way down on the rift, it started belching out a ton of lava in its final outburst before it came to a close. It let out a whole bunch of lava, and when it did so, the caldera started sinking in because the magma chamber underneath was deflating. So the ground just started sinking down. And while the ground started sinking, the sides started collapsing. Part of the road just fell in. And that's what created a super deep hole, all that collapsing, for 2 years later to fill back up with lava when we got the lava lake. When it was real deep and empty, it was about a half-mile deep, this hole. It was like an upside-down cone, right? It was a big funnel. And it was really, really deep, way down. And in fact, the bottom started filling up with water down in the very bottom. We had a bit of water down there for about 2 years. It was like 300 feet deep of water way down at the bottom. It was hot, steamy water, too. But then, it was December 20th, 2020, the side wall of the deep hole burst open. Lava spraying out of the wall down into the bottom where the lake was. The lake boiled out, then it just started filling up with lava instead. And that created the lava lake we see today, the crust of it anyway. And it was pretty cool for a while. It was all just molten lava. You could see the whole lake of lava down there. A molten lava lake, if you've ever seen it, maybe you know what I'm talking about, but it's not all glowing, brilliant orange glow, you know. It is all super hot, of course, but when it's all molten, typically there's a film across the top, and most of it looks like a shiny, silvery sheen because it gets a bit of a cool film. And then as it's moving and churning, there will be bright spots and flashes as it exposes the real hot underneath the sheen. if that makes sense. Look at video online, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool to see.
What about this caldera right down here?
Right in front of us is it's called Kilauea Iki. If you look, here, let me turn back left so you can see it a little bit better for a second. But there's the line across the floor of it is literally footprints because people walk on it. Now, you actually used to be able to walk in the main caldera down below us, but then they ended up closing that when it sunk in 2018 is when it happened, I think. Well, that's when it sunk down. Actually, I think they had closed the trails already because in 2008 is when all the smoke started coming out. They didn't want people down there. But yeah, that smaller caldera over there, Kilauea Iki, kind of a side caldera right next to the main one. That line is people's footprints on top of what was a lava lake. That's also a crusted over lava lake, but it's much older. That was a lava lake in 1959. So that hole used to be twice as deep. 1959, it started filling up with lava from an eruption. You notice on the right side there's a big mound. That's where the geysering lava was falling down and creating a cinder cone. And then it flowed down into the bottom, and it filled halfway up. It was a 500-foot deep lava lake. And then eventually it crusted over, and then they started letting, I don't know what year, but eventually they started letting people walk across the crust, which maybe they'll do someday to the main caldera over here. Maybe someday they'll open a trail in that one. Pretty cool. A couple more things while we're up here right over top of Kilauea Summit. The lines in front of us, these cracks, those are stress fractures. All of the land beyond those cracks is slipping into the ocean, moving about 10 centimeters per year too. It's kind of settling. And the geologists have been watching it, and they worried it's quite possible that entire thing could catastrophically fail. It could just slide all into the ocean all at once. And if it did, we're talking mega disaster. It could create a 1,000-foot tsunami wave. And massive earthquakes, and probably a huge eruption too. It would be a really bad day. They've got evidence that other places in Hawaii in the distant past, pieces have broken off the islands in the island chain here, and they've done it before. Notice off to the right, the big and little black splotch out here kind of in the middle of the desert. Remember I told you about 4 or 5 months ago, we had a 5-hour eruption. We zoomed over here and it was already done. That was it. Both those splotches were there. The next morning we got there, and there was still steam and smoke and stuff, but there was no more hot lava. It was still hot, but it wasn't glowing anymore. You couldn't see, there was no eruption. It was done. I was right there.
There's no place I'd rather be.
We can actually see South Point from up here too. You look off to the left, the farthest you can see way, way, way down there. That's where the green sand beach is, way down at South Point. There's a black sand beach down there too, Punalu'u Black Sand Beach. But the green sand beach is kind of the more famous one. Now, one more U-turn kind of back around to the left, and then we're going to continue back to the north. Oh, and while we're turning, one more thing to point out too. See the lava flow down on the shoreline there. You can see it like, there's a bunch of black lava down there, and there's one kind of distinct river of lava that hit the ocean way down there. That was 1969 through 74. It was a 5-year eruption, and it was coming out up under the clouds here on the rift zone. Kilauea's eastern rift it starts here at the summit, and it goes out in front of us. There's kind of a gentle ridge and a lot of old eruption sites down there. And that 69 to 74 sent lava out the rift down there into the ocean. That's where the Chain of Craters Road goes. I don't know if you went on it when you were out here at the national park. It goes all the way down. You can just barely make it out. It goes all the way down to the shoreline out there. We should have brought something super big and heavy, drop down in the caldera so we can bust it open. I mean, it really just, it honest to goodness is just a crust over a lava lake. It's still molten inside. I mean, it's probably pretty thick. It might be 100 plus feet of crust now at this point, but you drop something big enough, I don't know, military's probably got something to drop. I guess we'll just have to wait for the pressure. It'll come out somewhere. That's the thing. It may crack this open in here. You never know. It could come out anywhere.
There's no place I'd rather be.
Well, out towards Mauna Kea. We'll kind of hug the right side of Mauna Kea. Nice clear area up and around that way. Right at the boundary to the rainforest, you can see it extends all the way down to the shoreline out on the right. Right in front of us is the prison. That facility kind of in the middle of nowhere in the forest. Yeah, that's the prison.
What prison is that called?
No, wait, see, hang on. I was going to say Kulani Prison. No, I think it is. It's Kulani Prison. And the little cone, that little pu'u in front of it, but it's all covered in trees with a couple antennas, that's Kulani Cone.
How long did it take you to learn the geography? Or how did you learn that?
Well, when I first came here, I knew, well, when you first come into the company, the most important and primary training they give you is safety-related stuff, aircraft-related stuff, systems-related, what do you do in an emergency if this happens, that kind of stuff, right? So that's the heavy focus. And we spent about maybe 2 weeks going over that and all the company stuff when you get hired somewhere and all that kind of things. And then when they're done with that, you have about a week maybe between finishing that and then before you start doing tours. And they're like, okay, your turn, go learn stuff before you go to give a tour. Sort of like on your own at that point. Give you a couple guide, here's some geology handbooks or volcano handbooks, whatever stuff, but it's like, yeah, go read it, figure it out, look on the internet. But I really dug in. I wanted to know what I was talking about at least a little bit. Although in the beginning, still, there's only so much you can learn in a week, But I just kept going. Even my first, 6 months, year, whatever of working here, I just kept learning and learning and learning. And I'm certainly not an expert at it. I'm not a geologist by any means, but at least all the general information I know pretty good. And really another thing that kind of prompts you to keep learning too is when you get a question you don't know the answer for. So that one, I'd go straight back and look it up. Nowadays, I've been doing this for 14 years, it's really rare, not never, but really rare I get a question I've never heard before. I had one just the other day, and I was going to go look it up because I didn't know the answer. I forgot what it was now. It was a question I had never, in 14 years, I'd never heard it. I can't remember what it was now. I'm going to have to think about it. It'll come to me. I felt a little silly, too, because it was something straightforward. And I was like, gosh, I never looked that one up. I don't know.
What is our airspeed right now?
Right now, we're going 125 knots ground speed and 105 knots indicated airspeed. The ground speed is actually how fast we're moving across the planet. So we'll call that about 147 miles an hour. Now, maybe I'm overestimating a little. 143 or something.
And blue.
It's almost like we're sitting still.
It feels slow, doesn't it? Yeah. That's it, right down below us, yep. We kind of bank down, you can look down. The road goes right up into it here, yep. That's the prison. Yeah. Good place for it, I guess. Middle of nowhere. The old prison, the original prison, is over here to the left. Much smaller. I always thought that would be a great place for a haunted house. Except for that it's far away, you'd have to drive to it, but yeah. But the facility is amazing. I mean, for a haunted house anyway. Oh, 1984. Well, earlier, we were up the slope up here on Mauna Loa, and we saw 1984 eruption site, the black lava where it came out of the ground. You can even kind of still see it way up there over shoulder up on the right. But it ended up, this is it, right in front of us. It's not the first one, I think it's the second one. The first one, wait, let me look at them for a second. I got to kind of judge based on, you can kind of tell when you get a little bit further. Let's get this cloud past us, and I'll tell you. There's one of them's 1942 and one of them's 1984.
And mine could all
first one's 1942. The second one is 1984. You can tell better when you look down into the forest on the right. This 1942 has a lot of trees growing on it way down there, whereas the 1984 lava doesn't have as much. Remember up the top there, it was still black, like brand new looking. Down here, it's already getting vegetation and stuff growing on it. So much more rain down there. It really increases the rate of erosion and regrowth.
So are we. Our dreams come true. And blue Hawaii. And mine could all come true. This magic night of mine.
There's Saddle Road right in front of us. You can see it going down the slope. Goes right down into Hilo. You can almost see Hilo. Kind of just down. Hilo is the rainiest city in the entire United States. You guys been down there, I bet. If you've been, yeah, Volcanoes National Park. You have to. Well, you don't have to go through Hilo. It's just more direct to go through Hilo. Observatories on Mauna Kea. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. It's the best place in the northern hemisphere to put a telescope. There's another mountain in Chile, better for the southern hemisphere. Have you been to the top, Mauna Kea? Not yet. Should we go up there? We can't go to the very, very top. But the same reason we couldn't go to the top of Mauna Loa. They don't let us above 12,000, but we can go to 12,000, which is pretty close. Let's go up there. Let's go take a look. We're not too far away from it right now. We're almost at 8,000. Continue to climb and go back up there. Sun right behind us now, and it's starting to warm up in here. I mean, cool down. I turned it to fan. We'll see how we get. This Saddle Road is way better than it used to be. They rebuilt it. There's a couple spots you can kind of see. Actually, on the left, there's a little piece of the old road down there visible. A few spots you can see the old road. They rebuilt it like 10 years ago. They were in the process of rebuilding it. It was a long process, but eventually they got it all nice. Now, it's the best road on the island today, but it used to be one of the worst. It was such a hazardous road, the rental car companies put a restriction. You weren't even allowed to take your car on Saddle Road. That's how it used to be.
Yeah, that road, I drove it at night. It was really, I felt really like it was really dangerous.
Well, that's the thing. At night, and especially when it gets foggy, which it often does on Saddle Road, it can be dangerous. The people will run into animals, and in the fog, people get accidents because of that. But you can't really fix the Mother Nature part of it, which is the darkness and the fog and whatnot. But the road itself is now one of the best, maybe the best on the island. They used to be a lot of blind corners, and it was narrow and it wasn't really very good. They fixed all that though.
Now, what is this square tree?
This is a cattle ranch, and that's where the cattle ranch headquarters either were or maybe still are. I don't know if anybody still lives down there, but there'd be probably a little barn and a home, and there's a water. I can see a water tank down in there. It's probably somebody's homestead. I guess a good way to put it. They've got a water collection system over here on the left. Yeah, this is still cattle ranch, active. I bet somebody lives down there.
Are there a lot of head-on collisions on the island with the two roads?
Yes. Unfortunately, what happens is, yeah, there's way too many head-on collisions on the road because there's tons of two-lane highways, right? And the combination of the Hawaiians kind of have, the Hawaiian way, more or less, is to take it easy and drive slow. You get there when you get there, sort of. You know, it's sort of like, no rush, Hawaiian time kind of attitude, right? You'll notice if you've driven on the road much at all, everybody goes slow, right? Well, the problem is, everybody from the mainland coming to visit, they're used to going fast, and you got people going real slow, and people wanting to go real fast, and then it's a bad combination because you get people trying to pass on the 2-lane highways a lot, very frequently. And you can't really blame it on one or the other, it's that confliction, you know, it doesn't work very well because everybody wants to pass, and sometimes people don't judge it right. And we get a lot of big accidents, bad accidents. I kind of wish everybody would just, I don't know, compromise a little. The slow drivers go a little just a little, pick it up a little, you know. They're too slow, and you're a hazard, and everybody wants to go around you. You know, that's worse too. But the same thing on the fast drivers. Slow down a little. We'll get there. Not a big deal. You don't need to pass. What is going to save you 2 minutes? You know what I mean. Nevertheless, that's the issue. Well, here we go, Mauna Kea. We're getting close. We're now over 10,400 feet and still going up. We're right about eye level with the tree line. Like the end of the vegetation is about right here. Real lush rainforest under the clouds to the right, then grassland, and then it just dries out. There's nothing up at the top. Very little moisture falls up at the top. A little, but not much. Plus the lack of oxygen, you know, low air pressure and cold temperatures. All of that combined, things just don't grow very well up here.
And what kind of animal life are in these areas, the rainforest?
Well, of course, cattle ranching down below, back there. But as far as just feral, you know, like wild animals on the island, up in here, upper elevations, it's going to be sheep until the vegetation stops, and they don't really go any higher than that. There's nothing to eat. But they do come up into here. Down into the rainforest, lower down, that's where the feral hogs, the pigs, there's tons of them down in the rainforest.
I'm gonna get you, yeah. How much you wanna pay for you and I, for you and I, for you and I, for you and I, for you and I round them up and hit them out. I get along, little dog, yeah.
Well, you can technically drive to the top of Mauna Kea. Well, there's the dirt road on the left. You can see the switchbacks going up, right? Although you got to have four-wheel drive. Just a little bit below the switchbacks, further over left, that's where the visitor center is. And that's as far as you can go without four-wheel drive. Anybody can go to the visitor center. That's easy. Drive right up on the paved road. Past that, four-wheel drive is mandatory. No young children. I think the cutoff is 12. Full tank of gas is mandatory. Daylight hours is required as well. And I think that's it. That's kind of all the requirements. But if you can meet all those requirements, they'll let you drive all the way up to the top. Just and you can stay till sunset. They'll let you can watch the sun go down, but then they start kicking you out. They don't want you up here driving around at night because of the headlights interfere with the telescopes. "12 large observatories on Mauna Kea at the moment. Used to be 13, but recently they decommissioned one of them. They were hoping decommissioning one of the telescopes would kind of appease the resistance. Some of the protesters don't want a new one they've been trying to build up here. So they said, okay, we'll take one down. I don't think it really helped, though. The people who don't want the new telescope still don't want the new telescope. But they want to put another one. This new one they want to put in will be a 30-meter diameter telescope. Absolutely massive. Best place in the world to put it, really. Now 11,800 feet above sea level. Real close to our maximum authorized. The helicopter will keep going, no problem, but we're not allowed to.
How many flights a day do you do?
I've got typically 3 or 4. We do 2 of the longer flights in the morning, and then can be up to 3 of the shorter flights in the afternoon. Go up to Kohala only. I'd say on average it's more like 2 though in the afternoon.
Are we going to be going by the waterfall?
Oh, absolutely. multiple waterfalls. We're going to go see the best waterfalls on the island. That's where we're headed next. There's an awful lot of waterfalls on this island, but the best ones are up on North Kohala. So that's where we're headed. Have any of you been to Akaka Falls or Rainbow Falls? Those are the best you can drive to on the island, but compared to the ones we can fly to, they're nothing. You'll see. I'm gonna go to the tallest ones. Let me put it this way: the tallest waterfall you can relatively easily drive to is Akaka Falls, and it's about 422 feet tall. If you ever get a chance, go see it. It's worth it. But I'm going to show you some waterfalls and kind of keep in mind that number, and I'll give you some numbers of what we're looking at. You can kind of compare what we're able to fly to versus what you could have driven to. You'll see what I mean. Oh, it's nice up here. And I really like that this is not National Park because we come right close to things. Little double back to the right just for a second before we continue. We're going to head down slope here in just a second. I want to give you a quick view from the right side up to the top Mauna Kea before we leave. See Mauna Loa out there in the distance as well. In fact, in just a second, you're starting to see the edge of Mauna Loa's caldera. Kind of the sunken in. See the lip way out there? Kind of a big flat sunken in spot. Very few people get to see this perspective of the island up here. Even on our flights, most of the other pilots don't come up here. I like to though, it's, why not? Well, Hilo again is down under the clouds that way, but we're going to head out and down to the shoreline. We'll go see Kohala. You know what, actually what we may do here? Let's go left, right towards Kohala, because if we do, it'll give us a nice back entrance into the valleys, and we can see more of the valleys if we go this way. That's the best part of the island. Kind of optimize, right? Oh, cattle ranching land up here too. It wraps all the way around up here on kind of upper Mauna Kea. Or maybe mid-level Mauna Kea, I guess is the right way to put it. More water retention systems for the cattle. A lot of this, and I don't know where their boundaries are exactly, but a lot of what we're seeing in this area and left is Parker Ranch. I don't know if you've heard about it. Parker Ranch used to be the largest cattle ranch in the entire United States. Biggest in the nation. It's not the biggest anymore, but it's still in the top 5. It used to be about 500,000 acres, but they've sold some pieces off, and I think it's now closer to about 250,000. Plus, there's a ranch down in Texas, King Ranch. They keep buying up things and getting bigger. They're a lot bigger now. They're the largest in the nation, at least today. Out on the shoreline, that area is all kind of agriculture. Oh, we were talking cattle, not cattle. The cattle's down there too, even way down in the rainforest area. Sometimes they clear out the rainforest and see some of the grassland stuff. That's going to be cattle ranching. But in addition to all that, coffee, they grow it down here too. And of course, it can't be labeled Kona coffee. It's grown over here. Could be labeled Big Island coffee or Hawaiian coffee or even just Hamakua coffee. That's the district. But it can't have Kona on the label. You know what? When you're buying the coffees, my opinion is all that really matters is make sure when you're getting your Hawaiian coffee, it says 100% Hawaiian coffee. Because they'll try and fool you. They put like a blend with other stuff. Not as good. Makes it cheaper though. In addition to all that, a lot of tropical fruit farms, vegetables, macadamia nuts. And tons of cattle. The cattle are grown here, they grass feed, right? And then typically, the normal route anyway, and there's a couple things that can happen with the cattle, but the typical route is the cattle go onto a boat live, they ship them all to the mainland, and on the mainland they've got finishing farms where they grain feed for the last little bit of their lives, and then from there they go back to slaughter. Most of them leave the island live. We do have a small finishing farm here on the Big Island for local consumption, not too much though. That's Maui way out in the distance. See it poking up above the clouds? Haleakala volcano on Mount, it's about 10,000 feet tall. We just now descended below 10,000. But the volcano in front of us under the clouds, Kohala. That's the oldest on the Big Island, and the only one on the Big Island considered extinct. Should never erupt again. But the nice side effect being the old one, it's had more time than the rest for Mother Nature to erode out. Especially on the wet side where all the waterfalls, tons of erosion. That's why the valleys are so big and the waterfalls are so big over here.
Where's Maui?
You see it poking up above the clouds. You just see the ridge, the top of the volcano, yeah. Yeah, that's Haleakala. They have some observatories up there too. A really nice solar observatory on Haleakala. But still, the very best place is here on Mauna Kea. It's even higher. We were there earlier. That's Hualalai in the distance on the left. We went up top of that one. The little town up here is Waimea. Highway 19 comes up in through Waimea, across to the right, down into the town of Honoka'a, and then it follows the shoreline more or less back towards Hilo. That's a really nice drive to the green side of the island. Oh, see the eucalyptus trees over here on the right? These real dense groves, tall trees. Well, it used to be all sugarcane down here. Once upon a time, this was pretty much all sugarcane. All of this whole side of the island was sugarcane. But sugarcane started going away basically in 1959 because Hawaii became a state and minimum wage was introduced. And it cost more to produce sugarcane. Over time, it just cost too much. They couldn't really compete with the price of sugar elsewhere anymore. So sugarcane went away. But in place of sugarcane, there were kind of two major things they switched to, and along with a lot of other small things as well. But the two major things were cattle ranching. A lot of this was already going on, cattle ranching over on the dry side, but a lot of it spread down into the wet side. And the eucalyptus tree farms. That was another choice they went with. There's more coming up here too. There's some in front of us even. Eucalyptus trees. Real tall, dense groves. The thing about eucalyptus, it's a good paper tree. And that was exactly the point. They wanted to grow them all and then build a paper mill and turn them all into paper. So they started growing them all. But when they went to go build a paper mill, everybody protested because paper mills smell terrible. Nobody wants one around. They couldn't get it built. So that fell through. They started working on Plan B, and actually Plan B worked okay for about 2 years. They were cutting down the trees and shipping them to China. They put them on a truck, take them over to the harbor, send them to China. And then China stopped buying the trees. They said they didn't want them anymore, for whatever reason. So they had to move on to Plan C. Now, amongst all this time going on, there's been a lot of push in recent years for renewable energy. And somebody said, hey, the eucalyptus trees, they're full of eucalyptus oil. They burn really well. There's a lot of energy in them. What if we make electricity out of them? Hey, and they even grow back. They're renewable. Great idea. We'll build a biofuel plant, burn the trees, turn them into power. So they did. They got permits from the government. They turned an old sugar mill into a biofuel power plant. Great idea. They finished building it in 2020. They went to go turn it on, but they went to the government and said, hey, we're done building it. We just need the permits to turn it on and run it now. The government said, oh, you know what? While you guys were building that, we changed our minds. We don't want it anymore. Not going to give you the permits. So we can't turn it on. Long story short, we still have a ton of eucalyptus trees, and the farmers are at their absolute wits' end. Some of these farms have been cutting them down, literally just slashing them down, running them through a wood chipper and sprinkling it around and planting new crops. They've just given up. They need their land back. Waimea on the left as we're coming down. This is Waipio Valley coming up. Waipio is the most famous valley on the island, also known as the Valley of the Kings. Kings of the island used to live inside here. That's where they called home. There's a beautiful black sand beach down in the mouth of the valley. In my opinion, it's the best black sand beach on the island. Although you can't really get down into it anymore. They've got the entrance to the valley restricted resident access only. There are about 100 people that do live down in this valley today. Although when the Kings were here, it was more like 4,000 people living down in the valley. It's changed quite a bit. Well, we're going to go explore. Welcome to Kohala, my favorite part of the island. See the water thing? A little.
Is that a hiking trail?
Yeah,
Across there?
sort of. Yeah, well, yes, it is a trail. I'll tell you the story about this trail. It was built to provide access to, there's a water system. They're collecting water from upslope back over to the right, send it around this rim. There's a canal, actually mostly underground right through here. If you look carefully, let me see if we can't spot it. Look down here on the right, see if you can't see these little water chutes down in the cracks below. You see one? Yeah, that's where the water goes. It goes underground here. The trail was to provide access so they could service it, but it ended up this trail got really eroded. And nowadays, if you wanted to come up in here, the best way to do it is to go into the tunnel. You see the bridge there? Hop in to the tunnel, go inside the bridge, inside the tunnel, and keep going internally. It's much, much safer. Although, technically, all of this is off limits and you're not supposed to do it. But people do, if you want to research about this and learn about this area, look up White Road Hike. And you'll be, look at the videos online, look at the YouTube. That water chute, did you see the water chute goes up there? People go up there and jump in and slide down it. It's, not supposed to, but it's pretty cool. Gotta bring flashlights when you go inside the tunnel. This is Alakahi Valley. This is kind of all the bonus. Remember I told you if we do this route, we see extra? All of this stuff is extra. We wouldn't have seen it had we gone the other way. We're in Kawai Nui Valley right now, but we're headed next into Waimanu Valley. Waimanu Valley is home to the tallest waterfall on the island. I'll show you. We'll go take a look. The corner ahead to the left, this formation back in here is called the Keyhole. It's home to the tallest waterfall on the island, Waihilau, 2,600 feet. That's half a mile top to bottom coming up on the left. The waterfall right in front of us, Laho Mene Falls.
May it be an evening star shines down upon you. May it be when darkness falls, your heart will be true. You walk a lonely road. Oh, how
waterfall on our left, Waiheke Kahi Falls. This is about 1,500 feet tall, roughly as tall as the Empire State Building.
Believe and you will find your way. Morning along the a promise lives within you now. May it be the shadows call, will fly away. May it be your journey on to light
There's actually a campground down here, but it's like an 8-hour hike to get to it. And the trail kind of ends there too. We're going to hang a left. It doesn't continue. This area we're going down to next, you really can't hike to at all.
eyes to find the sun. Morning would tune the believe and you will find your way. Morning along the a promise lives within you now. A promise lives within you now.
Kind of like this vantage point. You'll see this on postcards sometimes. Set of 3 rocks up here is called Mokupuka. We just passed Honopui Valley. This is Honokea, smaller one. There are 3 more: Honokane Iki, Honokane Nui, and the very last one is Pololu, which you can drive to the edge of, as far as the road goes down there. Actually, a pretty nice adventure from the edge of Pololu. You guys ever been down there by chance? The Pololu Valley, you can see where the cars are way down there, and the house, the last one at the edge of the far valley. And there's an overlook, and then from there there's a trail that zigzags down at the bottom. There's a black sand beach. It's pretty cool. Maybe a half-an-hour hike to get down. Yeah, everything out here pretty much empty nowadays, although once upon a time the Hawaiians were living in all of these valleys. A little bit of evidence of that is sometimes we'll see, actually a little bit ways up here, you might start seeing some trails carved into the cliffs, especially on the left side up here. And a couple cabins do still exist, but they're just very few compared to what once was. Feel the turbulence. The wind's blowing from left to right. You can see, well, kind of coming across up top, right? But as it does, it rolls and swirls. Feel it. It's normal. Couple of cabins in the bottom down here, and then the trails. You can see them on the left. In very bad condition, you wouldn't dare go on them anymore. Yeah, once upon a time. Can you imagine making that? I like to watch for feral hogs in this one, on the right. Sometimes down at the bottom where it gets kind of muddy. Not always, but occasionally they're down there. No, maybe not. Bunch of cattle down here. is where the island transforms. Rainforest back to the desert. Happens real fast.
And
Back to the dry side, yeah. Dramatic difference as soon as you come over the hill. Air's almost always coming down this side. We might get a little bit of turbulence here. Hopefully not too much. We had a little bit already, but sometimes this zone gets bumpy. Maybe we'll be lucky and it won't. A harbor up in front of us, Kaihai Harbor, that's where the military, well, they built this in the late 1950s so they could bring all their vehicles over from Oahu, do their training up in the middle of the island. And they still use it all the time, but there's also a lot of shipping and private boats and stuff down here too. Combination. Big ravine below us, that's Keawevai. Now, Kohala Volcano, we're still over the old volcano, it's just way less rain over here, but still enough time. You know, we've got some erosion going on here too, just not as much as the other side.
playing in the sun, we were having so much fun on a white sandy beach of Hawaii. The sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul. Sound of the ocean rocks me all night long. Those hot, long summer days.
Is all the light blue coral in the ocean?
Yeah, so you can see under.
Of Hawaii.
Oh, hang on one second, I got a radio call. 1 second.
The sound of the ocean soothes my restless soul.
Okay, back to you. Yeah, so this is harbor, right? Kaihai Harbor. You can see out underneath there's coral and all kinds of stuff down in there, yeah. Offshore. The brightest areas where it's more like baby blue color, that's going to be sand. And then there's the darker stuff is either coral or old lava rock or a combination.
We were there in the sun on a white sandy beach.
And the best beaches Big Island has to offer are coming up on our left. Bunch of them over here, actually. Spencer Beach and Maumai Beach are the first two. Then the big ones, Mauna Kea Beach, Hapuna Beach, and then a little further down is Beach 69. But because these are the best beaches on the island, that's where the first big resorts were built as well. Specifically, the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel was opened up in 1965 by Lawrence Rockefeller. He put this one in. A lot of people thought he was crazy, though, because at the time there wasn't much over here. The beaches were there, of course, but it was just all desert. There was nothing else, right? And he said, yeah, but here's the thing. Best beach, best weather, that's what everybody wants. We'll make the resort nice. And of course he was right, and then everybody wanted to come, and then all the other hotels decided to start building over here too. Previous to the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel, most everybody came to visit the island in Hilo. They really didn't come this side much.
Love is like the open sea.
Have you been to any of these beaches? They're pretty good, yeah. Mauna Kea Beach is super nice, but so is Hapuna. Hapuna is easier to get to because it has a really huge public parking lot. And there is a public parking lot at Mauna Kea, but it's small, and once it's full, they start turning you away. But Hapuna, no problem.
How do you spell that, Hapuna?
Hapuna, Hapuna. It's a pretty good beach. If you haven't been to it, you go check it out. Nice.
Gone away. I think about you.
Where's the black sand beach from here?
But there's a couple black sand beaches on the island. Actually, we saw back at Pololu Valley, I think I was talking about it. We don't know if we really saw it exactly, but back at Pololu Valley, you can hike down to one. But there's one over here, too. There's actually a whole bunch of them. There's one over here. Once we get closer, I'll point it out, but it's up here on the shoreline.
Oh, I wish you were.
There's another one. Probably the most popular one that people go to on the island is down on the very south end of the island, kind of near the green sand beach, near South Point. At Punalu'u Black Sand Beach is the most common. Nice thing about that one is it's got a great big parking lot. You can drive right up, get out of the car, and there it is. You know what I mean? It's super convenient, but it is kind of far. You got to drive to it. The Waikoloa Resorts on our left, Fairmont, Monolani, Hilton, and Marriott hotels.
My heart, oh. Ujjayi breathing together, real feeling. Yogi gonna let you know that I wish you were here with me.
You can see it better now, the black sand, little small one. You see the black sand beach up here on the left? That's it. It's called 49 Black Sands. If you want to go to it, just look it up, 49 Black Sands. But really what you do, there's a whole community and there's some really expensive homes, right? But go to the entrance, it's a gated entrance. Pull up to the gate like you're going to go into the neighborhood. Talk to the security guard and just say, hey, I want to go to the beach. And as long as they have a little small beach parking lot area in there, and as long as it's not full, he'll open the gate and let you drive through all the neighborhood there, and you go park your car at the end where the beach is. There you go. Go early.
And what's that beach called?
49 Black Sands. Yeah, you'll look it up. You can find it. It's pretty close. It's convenient. It's just small and kind of hard to get into. Small parking lot. Here's the Hilton and the Marriott Hotel. Hilton's got this huge property, all this little bay and all the buildings around it. That's all Hilton. The Marriott and A Bay, a little beach down here called A Bay. That's a pretty nice beach too. Although the sand is a little softer up at Hapuna, but this one's it's nice. It's not bad.
And that's the Waikoloa Hilton?
Yes, it is. Yep, this whole area is all part of Waikoloa Resorts.
And that's a beach right there?
Yep, that's A Bay. Have you been to this one? A Bay. A Bay's nice. It's right next to the Marriott Hotel. There's a parking lot right down here by it. You can just walk right out to it. And there's a restaurant down here too. Notice the red roof buildings on the close side down on the sand? That's Lava Lava Beach Club, and it's a great place to have dinner, especially if you want to watch sunset from the beach with your toes in the sand and having dinner at the same time. It's pretty much the only place on the island you can.
Now, can you go snorkeling right down there?
Yeah, you can. Although when you do, hang on, I'm gonna pause it. We'll turn around just for a second and look. When you go snorkeling, you absolutely can. The best place to snorkel will be away from where the sand is, though. Because the fish don't hang out as much where the sand is. They tend to hang out where the rocks and the coral are. You got to kind of get away from the sand, off to the sides, find the rocks and coral. That's where you'll find the fish. See all these rocky areas? That's where the fish will be. Not as good for, swimming on the beach, but if you go snorkeling, that's where you want to make it to. Maybe you don't have to come this far, though. Just when you're swimming at A Bay, go off to the edges where you see the coral and the rocks in the water. That's where the fish will be.
And how do you spell A Bay?
Just literally A-B-A-Y. Although that is not the technical name, it's Ana E Ho'omalu or something. It's something really long that I don't even know how to pronounce, and nobody does and nobody cares. They just say A Bay. Easier. Even the locals call it A Bay. That's the landfill. And the 1859 lava flow is where we started out, remember? Unfortunately, that means we're almost back. I want to thank you guys for coming, though. Really nice flight today. Got to see all my favorite parts of the island.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Well, I saved one more song for the end for us. I'm going to put that one on, let it run. Oh, when we do touch down, please don't operate the doors. Let me take care of the doors for you. Also, keep headsets on just for a second after landing. I got a couple things to mention once we're on the ground as well. And let this one run, and I got to turn the microphones off just for a second, but I'll be right back with you.
I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Welcome back.